Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Whatever, is there any problem in linking the link?
No, sir, visible है.
Visible?
Yes, sir.
I think there was some problem in getting the link. Everybody has joined?
Sir, 18 student.
Okay, I'll start now. Should I? Or should I wait for 1 or 2 minutes more? Okay. Good morning, everybody. Now I'm going to start. Now, for past few days, we have been just looking at linear operators, and that too, which have got their characteristic values in the field itself. And such we have considered such operator as diagonalizable operator, nilpotent operator. Of course, we will be studying today diagonalizable operator. But among all these operators, the most important were the Jordan forms of the operator. Under Jordan form, we have seen that the important role is played by the minimal polynomial. If you are given a characteristic polynomial, of the matrix, then we know what is the different sizes of Jordan blocks. But if you have got the minimal polynomial, then you know what is the maximum size. What is the maximum size of Jordan block? Hello, is there any problem? Hello? Is there any problem?
No, sir.
So, if we are given the minimal polynomial, then with the help of this corresponding to each eigenvalue or characteristic value, we know the maximum size of the Jordan block. And then we have considered two multiplicities, algebraic multiplicity and geometric multiplicity. Geometric multiplicity just gives you what is the total number of Jordan blocks are going to be there corresponding to a particular eigenvalue. And with the help of minimal or with the help of characteristic polynomial, what we can just see what are going to be the different sizes of those Jordan blocks, because the total sum of the Jordan block should not exceed the algebraic multiplicity of that particular eigenvalue. So, therefore, to know the minimal polynomial is one of the toughest jobs pertaining to a particular eigenvalue. Now, there are certain methods through which we can just know or find whether a particular given characteristic polynomial is the minimal polynomial or not, or under what conditions a given characteristic polynomial is the minimal polynomial itself. And for that, we consider the concept of companion matrix. Suppose you are given a polynomial. Suppose you are given a lot of disturbance is there. We just hello. Hello. Yeah, suppose you are given a polynomial px by x to the power n minus a n minus 1, x to the power n minus 1 plus, that is, I have just taken algebraic sign alternatively. Suppose this is the polynomial, then its companion matrix is written. You just see the form. I start by excuse me, it is becoming difficult for me to continue.
प्लीज जी, जिन लोगों का माइक अनम्यूट है अपने माइक को म्यूट कर लीजिएगा प्लीज।
नीरज सैनी के यहाँ से आवाज आ रही है।
Could you please maintain decorum?
फोन कर दीजिएगा नीरज सैनी को, यहाँ से प्रॉब्लम।
Could you please maintain decorum? Class. So if suppose you are given a polynomial px is equal to x to the power n minus a n minus 1, x to the power n minus 1 plus and so on. And remember, this polynomial is a monic polynomial. Then its companion matrix is written either in this form. I start with the last column minus a0 minus a1 minus a2 up to minus an minus 1. Okay, and in the sub-diagonal position, because the last position is occupied by the diagonal entry, therefore in the sub-diagonal position I am just going to write 1 1 1 1. Now if I just consider the characteristic polynomial of this, that is a minus xi, then on expanding it I am going to get the same characteristic polynomial, and also that characteristic polynomial is going to be my minimal polynomial as well. Okay, so this is one way I can just write down the minimal polynomial. It is one of the forms of companion matrix. The other form is I have started by considering the last column minus a0 minus a1 minus a2, and remember you have to write this given polynomial in this particular fashion: x is power n minus a n minus 1, x power n minus 1 plus and so on. Its other form could be, instead of writing the last column, I can start by considering the bottom row, and then how I am going to start with minus a0 minus a1 minus a2 minus an minus 2 and minus an minus 1. You remember that in the previous case, we started by, in the last column, y started by minus a0 and ended with last entry as minus an minus 1. In this case also, when I am using the bottom row, I am getting the last entry to be minus an minus 1. But in this case, in this super diagonal position, in this case, in the super diagonal position, I am just going to write 1 1 1. When I started by the last column, I write these ones in the sub diagonal position. Whereas if I start by considering the last row, then I start writing 1 by ones in the super diagonal position. So this is another form of the companion matrix of the same polynomial. Or I can just write this as I start considering the first column. Now in this case, I have reversed the order. I am starting by minus a and minus 1, minus a and minus 2, minus a and minus 3, and up to minus a naught. Now, because the leading diagonal position has been occupied by minus a and minus 1, therefore, if I want to make entries on the diagonal by ones, then I can use only the super diagonal position. So in this case also, I am going to write ones in the super diagonal position. Okay, so I have seen how to write in the last column. I have seen how to fill up the entries of the bottom row and how to fill up the entries of the first column. And lastly, if I just consider the first row, again, I am going to start with minus a and minus 1, minus a and minus 2, minus a and minus 3, and last entry is going to be minus a naught. So in two cases, the last entry starting point was minus a naught, and in other two cases, the last entry was minus a naught. And depending upon the availability of the columns, diagonals, because we have to make entries in the either subdiagonal position or super diagonal position. So if the super diagonal position is available, I will make entries there. Otherwise, I will make entry only in the subdiagonal position. Okay. So if I just expand A minus, if I just mention this matrix as A, then I consider the determinant of A minus xi. Then on expanding this, not only I am going to get the characteristic polynomial of the matrix, at the same time, that particular polynomial is going to be the minimal polynomial also. So that way I can get the minimal polynomial of the given matrix. So many times it is this concept is used in solving problems. Okay, so this was another concept which was required while considering this Jordan forms. So today I am going to keep my lecture a little light because I am going to consider the last case, namely diagonalization of a linear operator. Under what condition a linear operator is going to be diagonalizable? Again, the problem is that all the characteristic values of the given matrix should lie in the field itself. Okay. Now, for example, it may be a repetition, but for the sake of clarity, let me just restart. Let T be a linear operator on R square. And suppose with respect to the standard basis, that is with respect to 0, 1, 1, 0. Suppose the matrix of T is given by a 0, minus 1, now, if I just look up the characteristic polynomial of this, either A or the operator T, it is nothing but x square plus 1. Now, you know, if I just concentrate on R, it doesn't possess any root in R. Okay, so the characteristic polynomial in this case doesn't have any root in R. So therefore, this particular operator is of no interest to me because its characteristic values, eigenvalues, do not lie in the field we are going to consider. But if suppose I consider any other operator whose characteristic polynomial is again x square plus 1, but this time I just consider field to be equal to C. So over C, that is field of complex numbers, it has got two roots, minus I and I. Therefore, in that case, it is of interest to me. And because it is a second order matrix and there are two distinct characteristic values, one minus I and I and minus I. So we will see later on that this particular either say matrix or operator T is diagonalizable. Okay. Now let me consider another example. As an example, suppose A is a 3 by 3 matrix given by this one. Okay. Or you can say that suppose T is a linear operator defined on R cube and its basis with respect to the standard base of R cube is given by this matrix. Now, if I look up the characteristic polynomial of this particular matrix, it is given by x minus 1 into x minus 2 square. So there are only two eigenvalues, namely 1 and 2, of course. The algebraic multiplicity of 2 is 2. Okay, but these are the only two distinct eigenvalues, 1 and 2. Now, whether, of course, now because 1 and 2 both are real numbers, so this particular characteristic equation has all roots in the set of real numbers. Okay, now the problem is this particular matrix diagonalizable? So what we are going to do, let us see how many independent characteristic vectors are there belonging to 1 and 2. If I am able to get 3 vectors, then we will see that this particular determinant or operator shall be diagonalizable, otherwise it won't be diagonalizable. So for that, I will just consider the null space of A minus I. That is, first I am taking lambda to be equal to 1, first eigenvalue 1. So A minus I is given by this one. So just look at a glance, you can see that the rank of this particular matrix, 2, 1, minus 1, 2, 1, minus 1, because two rows are identical. So its rank cannot be 3. So, but if you just look up this particular minor, then it is non-zero. So obviously its rank is 2, and hence it has got only one independent vector. Therefore, T minus has nullity 1. So the characteristic vector space belonging to the characteristic value 1 is only one dimensional, because there is only one independent characteristic value vector. So I get one independent characteristic vector from here. Now let me consider the null space belonging to the eigenvalue 2, that is A minus 2i. And again, if I just look up this, in this case, you will see that the, first of all, determinant A minus 2i, that is determinant value is 0. And moreover, the rank of this is again 2. Rank of this particular matrix is also 2, because you just consider this particular minor and its value is non-zero. So rank is going to be 2. So in this case also, I have got only one vector, which is independent. Okay. And I have just calculated that A minus I is basically the null space is generated by this particular vector 1, 0, 2. And in this case, the null space of this particular is generated by 1, 1, 2. And these two are independent, but they are not 3 in number. Okay, they are not 3 in number. So I will conclude that this particular matrix or operator is also not diagonalizable. So the question is, under what conditions, what are those conditions under which a particular linear operator is going to be diagonalizable? So first of all, let us understand what is meant by diagonalization of a linear operator. So if T is any linear operator defined on a finite dimensional vector space V, then this T is said to be diagonalizable if there is a basis of V which consists of characteristic vectors of T. Which consists of characteristic vectors of T. Now, if it is n-dimensional, basis is going to contain n vectors. But in previous example, we have seen that in the first case, there didn't exist any case of diagonalization. And in the second case, there were only two independent vectors. They did not form a base for three-dimensional space. So they were not diagonalizable. So this simply says that a linear operator is going to be, which is defined on an n-dimensional vector space, it is going to be diagonalizable if you can find a basis consisting of characteristic vectors of the space. Okay, and it is obvious in the sense that suppose there is an order base B, which V1, V2, Vn for V, in which each Vi is a characteristic vector of T. Because each is a characteristic vector of T, therefore I can just express this T of Vi as alpha I Vi, where alpha is a scalar corresponding to which Vi is a eigenvector. So that way alpha I becomes an eigenvalue. So I have got alpha 1, alpha 2, alpha n scalars, each of them which works as eigenvalue and correspond to which V1, V2, Vn are all eigenvectors. And because V1, V2, Vn, they are independent. Okay, they form a base. And we have already seen that if alpha 1, alpha 2, alpha n are n distinct characteristic values, then the vectors correspond to those, they are always going to be linearly independent. Okay, so therefore, what I can express T of V1 as alpha 1 V1, T of V2 as alpha 2 V2, T of V3 as alpha 3 V3, and so on up to T of alpha Vn as alpha n Vn. And if I just write this in the form of a matrix, that is, what is the matrix of T related to this base B? It is nothing but alpha 1, 0, 0, 0, alpha 2, 0, 0, and 0 alpha n. So if there is a base of the vector space which consists of only characteristic vectors, then the matrix of T belonging to this particular base is always going to be a diagonal matrix. Okay, so we may also define T to be diagonalizable when the characteristic vectors span the space V. Because if you have got a spanning set, from the spanning set we can always extract a base for the vector space. Okay, so this is the other way we can just define the diagonalizability of a vector space. So I have just explained that because of in view of this particular definition and theorem, examples of example 1 and 2, they are not diagonalizable. Okay. Now let us consider another part. Suppose that T is diagonalizable linear operator, and let alpha 1, alpha 2, alpha k be distinct characteristic values of T. Now remember, in this case, what we are going to do, we are not assuming that if it is n-dimensional vector space, then the distinct characteristic value should be n itself. They may be less than n. So let alpha 1, alpha 2, alpha k be distinct characteristic values of T. Then there exists an ordered base B with respect to which the T is represented by a diagonal matrix. And this diagonal matrix is going to be such that on the leading diagonal, these distinct characteristic values are going to lie alpha 1, alpha 2, alpha k. Because I have already told you that it is not necessary that alpha 1, alpha 2, alpha k should be any number if we are considering n-dimensional vector space. So alpha 1, it could be it could be a unit matrix, okay? On the leading diagonal, alpha 1, alpha 1, alpha 1 is going to be there. Then alpha 2, alpha 2, alpha 2, alpha 3, alpha 3, alpha 3. So these I1, I2, Ik, they are basically the unit matrices, say of order D1, order D2, order D2. Okay, so where Ij is unit matrix of order Dj by Dj. Okay. So in this case, we make the following observations. First observation is the characteristic polynomial for T is the product, because alpha 1 in a way is going to repeat D1 times. Alpha 2 is going to repeat D2 times. Alpha k is going to repeat dk times. Therefore, its characteristic polynomial can always be written in the form x minus alpha 1 raised to the power D1, x minus alpha 2 raised to the power D2, x minus alpha k raised to the power dk, where the alpha 1 that we have already assumed that they are all lie in F. And di, the number of times alpha 1 repeats. Okay, d1 is the number of times alpha 1 repeats and is equal to the dimension of the space of the characteristic space belonging to alpha I. So these two important observations we have made by the previous statement. Now, before I proceed further, let me just look up this particular example. That is, let T be a linear operator on R cube, which is represented in the standard order basis by this matrix A is equal to 5 minus 6 minus 6 minus 1, 4, 2, and 3 minus 6 minus 4. I just want to see whether this particular matrix is diagonalizable or not. Okay. So for that, first of all, let me calculate what is the characteristic polynomial of this particular matrix. And this characteristic polynomial is given by fx is equal to x minus 2 square times x minus 1. So the characteristic values are 1 and 2. Remember, space is 3-dimensional, but I am going to have only 2 characteristic values, 1 and 2. Sorry. Now let me calculate the dimension of the characteristic vector spaces belonging to these 2 characteristic values. And if I want to calculate dimension of the characteristic vector space, I have to consider the null space A minus I belonging to first eigenvalue 1 and A minus 2I belonging to eigenvalue 2. Now A minus I is given by this particular matrix and A minus 2I is given by this particular matrix. Now, if I just look up the rank of A minus I, you can see that rank of A minus I is 2. Rank of A minus I is 2. It means there is only one characteristic vector belonging to eigenvalue 1. Okay, so obviously rank of A minus I is 2, and that of this it is only 1. Okay. Now let me just suppose W1 and W2 B denote the characteristic vector space associated with eigenvalues 1 and 2. Now W1 is generated by, I just can calculate what is the vector belonging to the eigenvalue 1. So I have just calculated. So W1 is generated by this vector 3, minus 1, 3. Okay, W1 is generated by this particular vector, whereas W2 is generated by, there are going to be two independent vectors, 2, 1, 0 and 2, 0, minus 1. Okay, so that way you get three independent vectors, 3, minus 1, 3 and 2, 1, 0 and 2, 0, 1. These two are independent, and you can see that this is also independent of this. So that way, in a way, if I just look up the base consisting of alpha 1, alpha 2, alpha 3. So this is my base consisting of characteristic vectors with respect to which the matrix of T is going to be. I told you how to write this matrix, write on the leading diagonal all the eigenvalues. So 1, 2, 2. So 1, 2, 2. So this has been reduced to the diagonal matrix. Okay, but if suppose I want to find another matrix such that the given matrix is similar to this, so I just consider a matrix P whose columns are nothing but alpha 1, alpha 2, alpha 3. That is 3, minus 1, 3, 2, 1, 0, 2, 0, 1. Now this particular matrix, it is invertible. Okay, it is non-singular matrix, therefore it is invertible, and is such that if you consider P inverse AP, that is, if you calculate this, it is going to be precisely this particular matrix. That is, the given matrix is similar to this diagonal matrix. So if for any operator whose characteristic polynomial has all its roots in the given field, then if you can find a base of this space consisting of only characteristic vectors, then that particular operator is always diagonalizable. And for this, we have got this particular theorem. That is, let T be a linear operator on a finite dimension vector space V. And suppose alpha 1, alpha 2, alpha k be the distinct characteristic vectors of T. Remember, again, I am taking V to be n dimensional. I will just mention later on. And alpha 1, alpha 2, alpha k, they are less than n distinct characteristic values of T. And if Wi denotes the characteristic space of T corresponding to the characteristic value alpha I, where alpha I lies between 1 and n, then the following are equivalent. This is the rather characterizing theorem for diagonalization of a operator. Then T is diagonalizable. The characteristic polynomial of T is precisely because alpha 1 repeats D1 times, alpha 2 repeats D2 times. That I am assuming fx is x minus alpha 1 D1, x minus alpha 2 D2, x minus alpha k dk. Where what are di's? D1 is the dimension of W1, where W1 is the space belonging to alpha 1. D1 is the space belonging to alpha 1. D2 is the dimension of the space belonging to alpha 2. And dk is the dimension of the space belonging to alpha k. Okay. And what is the relation between D1, D2, D3, dk? The sum of all these dimensions, D1 plus D2 plus dk, is n. That is the dimension of the vector space V. Okay. So dimension of V is nothing but dimension W1 plus dimension W2 plus dimension Wk. So T is diagonalizable and its characteristic polynomial is of this particular form. Remember, here we are not assuming that the number of characteristic values should be equal to the dimension of the vector space. They are less than that. So we are working in that particular conditions. So as far as proof is concerned, so we have already seen over variety again. Wi is nothing but it is the vector space corresponding to the eigenvalue alpha 1. That is, it is the null space of T minus alpha I. So Wi is defined to be Vi such that T of Vi is nothing but alpha I Vi, or it is the null space of T minus alpha I. Okay, and this null space is also known as, I told you, kernel also. Okay, so these Wi, they are nothing but the null spaces of T minus alpha I or kernels of T minus alpha I. Suppose T is diagonal. Okay, it means there exists an order base V consisting of V1, V2, Vn, with respect to which the matrix of T can be written like this. Okay. Next, let us suppose that alpha 1 repeats D1 times, alpha 2 repeats D2 times, and alpha k repeats dk times. Then matrix of T B is nothing but alpha 1, alpha 1, alpha 1, D1 times, then alpha 2, alpha 2, alpha 2, D2 times, alpha k, alpha k, alpha k, dk times. So matrix of T in that case will be nothing but this. And then from this matrix, I can just write down the characteristic polynomial of T as I done in the previous theorem. That is fx is equal to x minus alpha 1 d1, x minus alpha 2 d2, x minus alpha k dk. And because it is n by n matrix, therefore sum of d1 plus d2 plus dk is going to be nothing but n, that is dimension of V. Thus, T minus alpha I has only di zeros on the main diagonal. Okay, if I just consider T minus alpha I. So alpha I, they will just cancel out. So you are going to get di zeros on the main diagonal for all I is equal to 1 to k. Also rank T minus alpha I is nothing but total number of independent vectors. So it is nothing but n minus di. So if I apply the Sylvester law simply says that rank of T minus alpha I plus nullity of T minus alpha I is never the dimension of the vector space. Now this is n minus di, this is di, so you get n. Hence nullity T minus alpha I is di, or dimension of this is di. So dimension Wi is nothing but di. So that way we have proved 1 implies 2. Now 2 implies 3 is obvious, there is nothing to be done. And as far as 3 implies 1 is concerned, we are given that dimension V is equal to dimension W1 plus dimension W2 plus dimension K. Okay, suppose W is nothing but W1 plus W2 plus WK. Okay, so I will just show that this W is nothing but V itself. So since alpha 1, alpha 2, alpha K are the distinct characteristic values of T, and W1, W2, Wk are corresponding characteristic spaces of T, we have dimension W is equal to dimension of W1 plus dimension W2 plus dimension Wk. Further, if Bi is a base of Wi, okay, I can always find a base for Wi, where Wi is nothing but kernel T minus alpha I. Then I just consider the totality of these bases. B2 equal to B1, B2, Bk. Then I get a base consisting of characteristic vectors belonging to alpha 1, alpha 2, alpha k, with respect to which this V is nothing but W, which is W1 plus W2 plus Wk. Okay. Now, since W is a subspace of V and V consists of characteristic vectors of T, therefore this T must be diagonalizable. So this is the characterizing theorem for diagonalizability of a linear operator. Now after that, now this is a very important result in Hassan's book. Is a problem. Maybe I think it is
यहाँ पे एक क्वेश्चन पूछना है।
हाँ जी,
ये जो सर लास्ट में हमने लिखा है कि v को हम W1 W2 इनके सम में लिख सकते हैं, ये सर सिंपल सम है या यहाँ पे डायरेक्ट सम भी बोल सकते हैं हम?
सिंपल सम है, डायरेक्ट सम की जरूरत नहीं है, ठीक है ना, लेकिन बट इट विल बी अल्टीमेटली इक्वल टू डायरेक्ट सम बिकॉज़ दे आर ऑल इंडिपेंडेंट वेक्टर्स।
हाँ जी, हाँ जी, हाँ जी,
है ना, वो डायरेक्ट सम भी हो जाएगा
जी। तो डायरेक्ट सम लिखा है तो भी सर हमें यही काम करना है?
हाँ, ये देखा।
ओके सर, ओके, थैंक यू सर।
Okay, welcome. Now here is a problem from Hassan's book, that suppose T is a linear operator. Then he said T is diagonalizable. Of course, we are assuming that all the characteristic roots of this T lie in F. Then this T is going to be diagonalizable if and only if whenever T minus lambda raised to the power m of V equal to 0 for all V in V and lambda in F, this should imply T minus lambda of V equal to 0. Okay, because it has got plenty of application, this particular result in higher algebra. Now, by the way, how many of you are interested in doing research in algebra? Is there anybody?
सर ऑप्शन ही अवेलेबल नहीं है।
It is not available.
यस सर।
Oh. No, but if anybody is interested, one can choose always supervisor from outside also. And one of you could be, one of the faculty members could be internal.
यस सर, यस सर। ओके।
I hope there is a provision of external examiner. Is there or not? Okay, let us see.
यस सर, यस सर।
So if T is diagonalizable, if and only if whenever T minus lambda raised to the power m of V equal to 0, remember this is for all V, and for all lambda in F, then T minus lambda of V should be equal to 0. So let us first assume that T is diagonalizable. Then just now we have seen that V has a basis B, and with respect to which the matrix of T is going to look like this. Okay, matrix of T is going to look like this. Now, if T minus lambda raised to the power m of V equal to 0, if it is true for all m, then in particular it is also going to be true for T minus lambda also. Okay, so let us assume that for some m, say m for m minus 1 of V, this is non-zero. Let us assume that T minus lambda raised to the power m of V equal to 0 and T minus lambda raised to the power m minus V is non-zero. Okay, then if I am able to show that this particular vector T minus lambda raised to the power m minus 1 V lies in the null space of T minus lambda, this will show that lambda will be, or if I am able to show that T minus lambda itself is singular, then lambda will be the characteristic value of T. Okay, so I am assuming that T minus lambda raised to the power m of V equal to 0, but T minus lambda raised to the power m minus 1 of V is non-zero. Then let me calculate T minus lambda of T minus lambda raised to the power m minus V, this one, and I just multiply this. So this is nothing but t minus lambda raised to the power m of b, and it is given to be 0. So this implies, because t minus lambda carries a non-zero vector to 0, therefore t minus lambda is going to be singular. Okay, it is going to be singular, and hence t minus lambda is singular. Therefore, lambda is the characteristic root of t. Okay, first part is obvious. Second part is also very obvious in the sense that suppose t minus lambda raised to the power m of v equal to 0 implies t minus lambda of v equal to 0 for all v in V. We show that t is diagonalizable. Okay, so we are going to claim that the minimal polynomial px of t is of the form x minus lambda 1, x minus lambda 2, x minus lambda t. Now, what is going to happen? Suppose if we are able to show that the minimal polynomial of this is going to be of this form, it simply means that the geometric multiplicity of each of these is going to be 1 only. Okay, that is the Jordan blocks are going to be of order 1 only. That is, all the entries on the leading diagonal are going to be lambda 1, lambda 2, lambda 3, lambda t. Okay, so this will become diagonalizable. So my claim is that the minimal polynomial of px must be of this particular form. Okay, where lambda 1, lambda 2, lambda t are distinct characteristic values of t. Suppose it is not, then it must be of the form x minus, that is lambda 1 must repeat, lambda 2, lambda t repeats. So x minus lambda 1 raised to the power m1, x minus lambda 2 raised to the power m2, x minus lambda t raised to the power mt, where mt is greater than 1. Okay, if px is not linear, product of linear factors, then it is going to be product of these factors. Okay, now since px is the minimal polynomial, we have got pt equal to 0. Okay, this implies from here, t minus lambda 1 raised to the power m1, t minus lambda 2 raised to the power m2, t minus lambda 1 raised to the power m1. Okay, sorry, यहाँ थोड़ा सा गड़बड़ हो गया है लिखने में, तो it should be m3 etc. should be 0. Okay, but what does this show? That t minus lambda t raised to the power mt of v equal to 0. This implies t minus lambda t of v should be equal to 0 because it is given to us. T minus lambda raised to the power m v equal to 0 implies t minus lambda v equal to 0. Okay, so instead of this, you have got only a linear factor. Now, if you just look up this particular polynomial, t x minus lambda 1 raised to the power m1, x minus lambda 2 raised to the power m2, and like this, last factor will be x minus lambda t. Now, the degree of this particular polynomial is going to be less than degree of this particular polynomial. And since this is the minimal polynomial, therefore this cannot be 0. This, and it is a contradiction. This contradiction shows that our assumption that minimal polynomial should be of this form is not true. And hence, the minimal polynomial of t must be of this particular form. And so, this particular t is diagonalizable. Hence, by the Jordan canonical form, t is diagonalizable. Okay, this is the characteristic polynomial. This is the minimal polynomial. Therefore, the only entries of the Jordan blocks, you can say, will be only diagonal element lambda 1, lambda 2, lambda 3, lambda t. So that way we have considered 4 major type of operators whose characteristic values lie in the given field. They are trigonalization, nilpotent, diagonalizable, and Jordan canonical forms. Rational canonical forms are not there. Otherwise, they form, because in that case we just consider polynomials over modules. It is not there. Modules were not there in your course. So I think with this, I can just wind up the topic on linear operators. Then next I have got different type of forms, linear forms, quadratic forms,
सर
and
पीछे वाली स्लाइड में एक डाउट है सर,
हाँ जी,
जो सर उसका हमने फर्स्ट पार्ट करा है उसमें सर हमने नील पोटेंसी ली है कि मतलब m-1 पावर पे वो नॉन जीरो होना चाहिए।
नहीं, अगर वो सबके लिए ट्रू है फिर तो कुछ करना ही नहीं हमको। वो
नहीं
तो
सर, इसमें हमने ये लिया है ना सर, t माइनस लैम्डा टू दी पावर m v इज इक्वल
-1
टू
लिया।
0। हाँ जी, तो हम ये कंसीडर करके चल रहे हैं कि यदि m-1 v पे वो जीरो ना हो तो फिर
हाँ,
आगे उसमें मतलब प्रोडक्ट हो गई। यदि
तो
सर हम उस कंडीशन को लेके ना चले,
नहीं, वो तो गिवन है वो तो गिवन कंडीशन है, ठीक है ना। उसने पहले कहा है कि इफ t माइनस लैम्डा रेज़ टू द पावर m
हाँ
और v
जी,
इक्वल टू 0 implies t माइनस लैम्डा इक्वल टू 0।
नहीं तो वो तो हमें इम्प्लाई करना है, बट सर इससे हम श्योर कैसे कह सकते हैं कि m-1 वाली नॉन जीरो होगी?
हम मान रहे हैं ना, सपोज अगर सबके सब 0 है फिर तो जो है ना कोई दिक्कत नहीं हमको, कर दिया हमने।
और सर यदि हम वहां पे ना माने, केवल हम ऐसा करें सर
हाँ,
कि यदि
नहीं तो
उसमें
हम उसके पहले सब छोड़ देंगे ना। हम जहां पर भी नॉन जीरो कम से कम एक तो नॉन जीरो होगा,
जी
ठीक है
जी,
ना। ये नहीं होगा कि सब 0 हो जाएंगे, फिर तो 0 हो जाएगा वो,
हाँ
फिर
जी,
तो
हाँ जी सर,
कुछ करना नहीं हमको। तो किसी ना किसी स्टेज पे एक नॉन जीरो हम मान के चल रहे हैं,
हाँ
तो
जी,
उससे
हाँ
पहला,
जी,
तो हम उससे पहला ले लेंगे बस, समझ गए ना। सपोज
जी
टी
जी,
m-2 इज 0, इज नॉन जीरो, तो मैं
ओके सर,
-1 के लेवल पे ले लूंगा इसको, ठीक है ना, क्योंकि मुझे तो m को वेरी करना है सब पर। ये
ओके
m को
सर,
फिक्स थोड़ी ले लिया मैंने, ठीक है।
यस सर,
सोचना इसको थोड़ा सा, अगर फिर भी डाउट हो तो मुझे बता देना।
ओके सर,
So now I am going to discuss various forms in which important I will be considering quadratic forms and bilinear forms. But as a passing remark, let me just define what is meant by a linear form. Okay. Now a linear form basically in n variables, say x1, x2, xn. First of all these forms are going to be homogeneous in nature. If they are not homogeneous in nature, we can always reduce them to linear homogeneous form. So a linear form in n variable x1, x2, xn is a homogeneous expression of the form summation I is equal to 1 to n alpha I xi, that is given by alpha 1 x1 plus alpha 2 x2 plus alpha n xn. Okay, where alpha 1, alpha 2, alpha n, they are nothing but scalars. They are elements of the field. Now, I can treat these variables x1, x2, xn as a vector also. A matrix consists of column vector x1, x2, xn. And these alpha 1, alpha 2, these scalars, they can also be treated as vectors, of course, that they are of Rn. Okay, if we are looking at real numbers. So I can just consider this as a row vector, alpha 1, alpha 2, alpha 3, alpha n. Then their multiplication, that is row vector into column vector, is precisely alpha 1, x1, alpha 2, x2, alpha n, xn. So I can just write this as alpha t x, where t is the nothing but transpose. I just consider this as a column vector, consider transpose, it will become a row vector, and x as the vector x1, x2, xn. So this particular expression, that is called a linear form in n variable x1, x2, xn. Now, for example, x1 plus 2, x2 plus x3 is a linear form. Okay, I can consider 1, 2, 1, and then x1, x2, x3. So I can just write this as 1 to 1 transpose x1, x2, x3. Likewise, x1 minus 2x2 plus 5x3 plus 100x4. This is also a linear form. Basically, linear forms are of no interest to us. And the first interesting part with us lies in the quadratic form. What is a quadratic form? The quadratic form, as I have defined, linear form, again it is a homogeneous polynomial in n variables, x1, x2, xn. So because it is quadratic, so each term of the form must be of degree 2 only. So I can express this as a x1 square plus twice h x1 x2 plus b x2 square. There are going to be only two unknown variables, x1 and x2. So this is of degree 2 because x1, x2, there's some degree is 2 and x2 square, this is also degree 2. So a x1 square plus 2h x1 x2 plus b x2 square is a quadratic form in x1 x2. Even the simplest form would be x1 square plus x2 square. That is also a quadratic form in x1 x2. And likewise in three variables, a x1 square plus b x2 square plus c 3x3 square plus 2 x1 x2 x1 x3 x2 x3, that is their multiplication. But the sum total of degree of various variables must be 2 only. So that is another example of a quadratic form. And likewise, I can just write down, this is the third example in 4 unknowns, 4 variables of quadratic form, a x1 square, b x2 square, c x3 square, d x4 square, and then x1, x2, x1, x3, x1, x4. It is not as if all of them should be there. Okay, but whenever they are occurring, their sum power must be equal to 2 only. So these are quadratic forms. Now, why quadratic forms are so important? Why they are so important? I think that I will discuss in my next lecture. Because every quadratic form can always be expressed in the form of a product of matrices, and one of the matrix is always going to be a symmetric matrix. It is always going to be, one of the matrix is going to be a symmetric matrix. And we have the whole theory for symmetric matrices before us. So by applying that, we can just make various study. And where do this quadratic forms lie? In geometry, you must have studied them. Because every quadratic form represents a conic section. Okay, it always represents a conic section. So under different conditions, it may be either a parabola, it could be ellipse, it could be hyperbola. Okay, so they play central role in the study of geometry. Okay, I think I will discuss this in detail in my next lecture. How to write in the symmetric form, and then how to manipulate this. Okay, in this case, our major theorem is going to be the central axis theorem. Okay, in which I'll just explain next time that particular form. So do I stop? हाँ बोलिए.
सर नेक्स्ट वाले लेक्चर में सर हमें एक चीज और बता देना, डायगोनलाइजेशन ओवर सी. सर कहीं पे पढ़ते हैं कि एवरी मैट्रिक्स इज डायगोनलाइजेबल और ऑलमोस्ट एवरी मैट्रिक्स इज डायगोनलाइजेबल ओवर सी. तो सर उसमें थोड़ा सा कंफ्यूजन है, वो और समझा.
नहीं, उसका रीजन ये है,
जी
if the given matrix is over the set of real numbers and you get a characteristic equation, okay, so its roots may be real, it may not be real.
हाँ जी सर.
But fundamental theorem says that every polynomial equation has exactly n roots over the field of complex numbers.
Yes sir.
समझ गए ना? तो उसके जितने भी रूट हैं सब कॉम्प्लेक्स नंबर्स में आ जाएंगे.
हाँ जी.
Okay, they may be distinct, they may not be distinct.
जी
और
सर.
फिर मुझे उसका जो है ना, मुझे उसके कॉरस्पॉन्डिंग उनके वेक्टर स्पेसेस निकालने पड़ेंगे.
जी सर.
ठीक है ना? तो वो आराम से मिल जाएंगे तुम्हें। तो दैट्स व्हाई every matrix defined over real numbers can always be diagonalized over the
Sir,
field of
sir,
over the field of complex numbers. हाँ
जैसे सर हम निलपोटेंट मैट्रिक्स लेते हैं तो सर वो तो डायगोनलाइजेबल होती ही नहीं है।
जी, एक जने का उसके अंदर तो
जी।
उसके कैरेक्टरिस्टिक वैल्यू होती है 0 से, समझ गए ना, उसके कैरेक्टरिस्टिक वैल्यू 0 होती है।
हाँ तो सर हम उसे डायगोनलाइज कैसे
वो
करेंगे? डायगोनलाइज
डायगोनलाइजेबल नहीं
करने
है,
के लिए
it is not
जी
diagonalizable, it is not diagonalizable, but it has got a diagonal type of form,
यस सर, जॉर्डन
it
कैनोनिकल
has
फॉर्म।
got a diagonal form।
सर
समझ गए ना?
वो तो ठीक है सर, बस एक स्टेटमेंट जो लिखते हैं ना सर, ऑलमोस्ट डायगोनलाइजेबल, तो सर उस ऑलमोस्ट
नहीं
वर्ड
तो
का जानना है कि वो
नहीं तो
मतलब
उस वहां देखो ऑलमोस्ट का मतलब क्या है।
हाँ
ऑलमोस्ट का
जी
मतलब ऑलमोस्ट का मतलब यही होगा कि इट इज नॉट डायगोनलाइजेबल बट इट कैन ऑलवेज रिटन एज ए डायगोनल मैट्रिक्स whose diagonals are nothing but blocks of, समझ गए ना, whose diagonals are nothing but blocks of matrices।
ओके सर ओके।
और वो पर्टिकुलर मैट्रिक्स क्या है, और निलपोटेंट ऑपरेटर में तुमने देखा कि डायगोनल एंट्री जो है ना सब 0 0 0 होती है,
हाँ
और
जी हाँ जी
सुपर डायगोनल एंट्रीज जो है ना 1 1 1 1 होती है। तो वो
जी सर।
सबके सब उस टाइप की मैट्रिक्स हो जाएंगे। सो दैट्स व्हाई इट इज ऑलमोस्ट डायगोनलाइजेबल।
ओके सर।
ठीक है ना, और
जी
कोई
सर।
मतलब नहीं है, बस यही है,
ओके सर।
या तो डायगोनलाइजेबल है या स्टैम्प लिख देते हैं। यही बात
ठीक है।
हमारी जो है ना जॉर्डन फॉर्म में भी है, तो वहां पर भी हम जो ब्लॉक्स ब्लॉक्स ब्लॉक ब्लॉक्स लिख देते हैं, तो वो भी ऑलमोस्ट
जॉर्डन तो सर हम हर किसी मैट्रिक्स की बना सकते हैं, यदि हमारी फील्ड में आइगन वैल्यूज आ रही हैं तो उसकी जॉर्डन तो पॉसिबल होगी 100%।
नहीं, उसके उसके आइगन वैल्यू जो है ना फील्ड
जी
में होनी चाहिए, अगर एक भी बाहर
हाँ
होगी फिर नहीं लिख सकता।
जी वही कह रहा हूँ सर,
समझ गए, हाँ, फर्स्ट कंडीशन है कि उसके जितने आइगन वैल्यूज हैं
वो
वो
सारी फील्ड में होनी
फील्ड
चाहिए।
में होनी चाहिए, तभी जो है ना हम इसको कर सकते हैं, अदरवाइज नहीं कर सकते।
ओके सर, थैंक यू सर।
तो इसको थोड़ा सा डिटेल में पढ़ो, चाहे हाउसबैंड कुंसे की बुक पढ़ो, चाहे जो
जी
है ना
सर।
हर्स्टाइन पढ़ो, तो यू विल
जी
नो द क्लियर पिक्चर देयर।
ओके सर ओके, थैंक यू सर।
ओके ओके बाय।
जी सर नमस्ते।
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
थैंक यू।